everybody, it's Tony George from DocSports.com on Monday, and usually the video on Monday is Monday Night Football because we're right in the heart of the football season. But guess what happened on November 4th? The college basketball season tips off. And joining me here today is my small conference guru, my right-hand man, one of my only staff capper in college basketball, and that is Tim Fynes from Atlantic City, New Jersey. And Tim, it is upon us, dude. I know you've been out there on the Eastern Seaboard running around to a lot of these small conference media days, seeing some practices, and something that we specialize in on my program at DocSports.com is we specialize on these mid-majors and small conferences a lot, about 65% of our picks. Now, I work on the Power Fives, which I'm still in the middle of power rating those. But Tim, as always, he's way ahead of the curve. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, T. How are you, my man? Thanks for so much for having me. And we're ready to talk some hoops. Like I said, I leave the Power Five stuff up to you. You leave the small conference up to me, and good 1-2 punch here.
Well, we'll quickly go over, I guess, some future stuff. Everybody's tuning in for future stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought I would just open it up with some tasty, maybe a season win total here or there, surprise team that you might like. You've got all 22 mid-major conferences. We've got your infamous mid-major top 25 poll, which I'll put up on the website. But some of your mid-major, maybe some surprise teams, and either over or under on those win totals.
Sure. Well, right from the jump, I'm going to tell you Grand Canyon, McNeese State, and those are the two that automatically just immediately come to mind. McNeese State and Grand Canyon. If they make it into the tournament, those are the teams that you're going to see that infamous 5-12 matchup. How often do we see that 12 seed beat the 5 seed? I mean, it happens actually more often than not. Grand Canyon, I always questioned, and Tony, you know this very well because this is really your area here. When Homer Drew passed it down to Bryce Drew at the head coach and he left Valpo, when he left for Grand Canyon, I'm thinking to myself, what does he know that I don't know? Well, it turns out he knows a lot because he's got his team about 17 votes in the AP top 25, let alone the mid-major top 25. Total on them is going to be at 22.5 the wins. I will take the over all day. McNeese 20.5 wins to start the season, over all day. And also to win their conference, you're going to have to lay a little bit of chalk. We got minus 125 here for McNeese and minus 135 for Grand Canyon. I don't know if I'd be willing to lay the 135. It's just so many things can happen in that conference tournament. But those are two teams I would really, really look out for. And coming from the Atlantic 10, also VCU and Dayton, I think they're worth the flyer in terms of the futures market.
I see you jumped in on your preseason top 25 and Mo Valley team Bradley. You're high on Bradley this year.
I am. I think they're going to be really good. I was on them last year a little bit, but I was about a year too early. I know you love your Mo Valley, but I'll tell you what, Tony, that team is absolutely loaded. They have guard play, they have forward play, they have big play. They're built a lot like an NBA team. They go 6'11", 6'10", 6'11", and 6'11" up front. That's a very, very big roster for the Big Ten, let alone the Mo Valley.
Yeah.
So that size is going to give teams a lot of problems. They have the guard play, they have the speed. Watch out for the Braves of Bradley this year. They're going to be very, very good. Yeah,
the other team in that conference I like is Northern Iowa.
I do. I have them in my top 25 in major poll as well. Yep. Yeah, they're going to be. He's every year, man. He might be the absolute king of just reloading that cabinet. He's very, very good at what he does. He's been the head coach there for a long time. And Northern Iowa, it's going to certainly a conference where I think it's a 2-horse race, just like we're just kind of talking about the Atlantic 10. I think it's going to be VCU, Dayton. I think St. Joe's is going to be a lot better than people think this year. St. Joe's head coach Billy Lang has Eric Reynolds back. He has Xavier Brown back. I mean, they're going to be really, really good at the guard spot. The question is, can they bang and hang around those rim protectors in the Atlantic 10 with the likes of St. Louis, Loyola? UMass is going to, then you kind of have that drop off, right? UMass, George Mason, Duquesne, and then you have bottom feeders. And I hate to say this, but George Washington, Fordham, LaSalle. My poor LaSalle Explorers, man, they're going to struggle once again this year. And keep in mind, a conference we really like playing a lot of totals on in the Atlantic 10.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot out of the A10 conference as well. I'm curious to know, pardon me. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the Horizon League this year. Did you take a look at them in your preseason work?
I did. I did not. It's a media day that I did not attend, but I certainly have them power ranked. So I think it's going to be an interesting league. If you look at my own power rankings, I think Milwaukee is going to be very, very good. I think Purdue Fort Wayne, for the first time in a very long time, is going to be very good. I have Milwaukee, Purdue Fort Wayne, Northern Kentucky, Wright State, Oakland, and then kind of a drop in everybody else between Youngstown State, Green Bay. Who else is in it? SIU, Edwardsville, Robert Morris now moved into that league. So I think I think Milwaukee's going to win the league. Detroit Mercy.
Yeah.
Yep. Green Bay. Yeah, they're gonna struggle big time because you have those teams like Milwaukee this year. Purdue Fort Wayne's going to be really good. Northern Kentucky's always a very hard place to play. Wright State. Scott Nagy left Wright State and is now at Southern Illinois, which I guess I can say this now because it's 1:00 and it's halftime. Charleston in Southern Illinois, our first game of the year there. That line moved. I was all over it at 1, and that moved all the way to 3.5. But that game's at halftime now with Charleston up by 4 at the half.
That's good. That's our opening play of the season.
Yeah.
Very happy to put one out for everybody on Monday. Now, one thing I wanted to take a look at here, that you sent me some notes here. Top 5 mid-major players to watch. Give us a couple of names out there that intrigued you.
In the American East, I'll tell you, when I attended the American East Media Day, I was so impressed. And you know how many times I've been on Bryant in the past. I think that American East Conference is going to be Vermont, Bryant, and UMass Lowell, and then everybody else. Earl Timberlake from Bryant is an absolute. He's an NBA player. He's going to average 25 and 10, or maybe 22 and 9, give or take. And all he's going to do is be a walking double-double. All Bryant's going to do is win 25 games and score 100 a game. And that motto, rest on offense, right? They have the opposite motto. They rest on defense and they play on offense. So Bryant's going to be good. I really do like another player out of the Atlantic Sun we're talking about, Jakari Lane from North Alabama. If you told me that I'd be sitting here with this season preview, and I love my Atlantic Sun and my Atlantic 10. I'm a big South guy. I'm an American East guy. But I do like the Atlantic Sun. I follow it religiously. North Alabama, now, keep in mind, this is a conference with North Florida, with Lipscomb, with FGCU, and what they did a couple of years ago in the tournament. I have North Alabama power ranked over all of them. And Jakari Lane from North Alabama is a guard who I think is going to average about, last year he averaged 19. I think he can be another 20 and 10 guy. He's going to be very good. And then when we go to the American East, it's really, really hard not to like Shamari Bogues from Vermont as well. Those are 3 names that just off the top of my head, especially Earl Timberlake, man, from Bryant. He's going to be the guy to watch for me.
Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah, and
he's a stud. He's a stud. He's an SEC player.
I like them. You could take about any over they put up, and you're usually safe.
About 85, 90% of the time. Yeah, man, just play the over.
Look at their numbers from last year.
UMass Low.
Yeah, we were on them a lot last year. Yeah, we were on them a lot last year. A couple of teams here you've got in your top, your top 5. We cherry pick a lot of these West Coast late games during the week. And you've got Santa Clara and UC Irvine in there. A couple of really good teams. Tell us a little bit about those two.
Yeah, I think Santa Clara, they have a coaching staff that I kid you not, I think would be a better coaching staff in the NBA. Herb Sendek is the head coach at the old Arizona State
Yeah,
coach. He's now, he spent a lot of time in the NBA. I'm sure, Tony, you remember Julius Hodge in his days, a 2,000 point
yeah,
scorer at NC State. He's the associate
oh
head
yeah,
coach. Yeah, they have,
yeah,
so they have a stacked coaching staff that really went out and it's funny. I was talking to my literally yesterday. I was just talking about this about the JUCO and like how you go out, and it's really kind of a gamble because if you're a JUCO player averaging 30 a game, that's great. But there's a reason why you're at JUCO, right? Whether it's grades, whether it's a home issue, whatever the case is. But he has had a tremendous amount of success at Santa Clara, Herb Sendek, out of recruiting junior college players. He's got about 10 guys on the roster. They're going to go about 10 deep. It's going to be like a hockey line change when you watch Santa Clara play
yeah,
basketball this year. So
yeah,
they're going to be really really good. And UC Irvine, Tony, their strength is going to be again. I'm kind of going to go back to that size that I talked about in the Horizon League. UC Irvine's strength, if you look at that roster, where they come up with all these 6'10 and 6'11 bodies, they're starting at 6'6", I'm sorry, 6'5", 6'6", 6'6", 6'10", 6'10", 6'10 in the Big West.
yeah,
That's like a
yeah,
747 coming in for a landing there in that conference. So
right.
that's going to be the strength of them is going to be their is certainly going to be their size. The strength of Santa Clara is going to be their ability to get up and down, foul line to foul line, scoring the basketball.
Yeah,
And then we kind of transition into the Big Sky a little bit. There's really been no movement there, Tony. Weber State, all day, every day.
yep,
Nothing ever changes. I think Montana State could challenge a little bit, but if you're going to take a futures, that futures market on Weber State right now it's at plus 150 right now via pretty much consensus across the board. I'm not going to get into sports books and tell you where to go, but it's pretty much at plus
right.
150 to take certainly worth taking a flyer on them, Tony.
No, definitely. I'm going to do that. I
And
took a
High Point,
flyer
Tony.
on
Let's not forget
Bradley.
about High Point.
Yeah, I just thought, I took a $500 bet on Bradley to win the Mo
Bradley,
Valley this year. I think they're
smart
gonna.
bet.
I think they're gonna. Yeah, I think that's well worth the stretch there, folks. And one thing I wanted to ask you also as well. Um, I'm curious about the Colonial Athletic Association, the CAA this year. What's your top two or three in that one? Is that just top heavy?
Yes, very, very much so. And the bottom is ugly, but the
Yeah,
top is pretty. The top is pretty. The top
yeah,
is not only pretty, the top has three teams in my mid major top 25: Charleston,
yeah,
Towson, Hofstra. So
yeah,
Charleston, Towson, Hofstra, and then that's not even talking about UNC Wilmington and Delaware. So
yeah,
that league, Tony, now is now up to 16 teams in that league. That's a
yeah,
lot of teams in
yeah,
the conference. You know, and then you have the bottom. I mean, that is going to be talk about a rough transition for North Carolina A&T, for Campbell, for Monmouth, Stony Brook. My, how the mighty have fallen since Steve Peichel left Stony Brook and went to Rutgers. They
yeah,
might not. You want to talk about team totals? Take Stony Brook in the under. I don't even know what it is,
yeah,
but take it. Yeah, I mean
yeah,
they're going to really struggle. Monmouth is going to struggle. Campbell's going to struggle, and then you have some in betweens there. Northeastern, who historically head coach Bill Cohen, he runs that Princeton style offense, a lot of backdoor cuts, a lot of backdoor screens. You have
yeah.
Drexel with Zach Spiker and that Philly connection. They'll be okay, but really Charleston, Towson, Hofstra, 1, 2, 3. It's going to be a very very close 3-horse race. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I know you were big on Charleston out of the gate. You were well, that's our
I am.
first pick here. Um when it comes to mid-major player of the year, who are you going to stick that with this year?
You know, I actually like the
Timberlake?
team you just talked. I like Timberlake a lot, but I also like a kid
Yeah,
right now who we have for our game of the day. Really, are that was for anybody who got that play. That was going to be. I texted you, Tony, what, 3 weeks ago, and said, "Hey, TG,
yeah,
this line's at -1." Now, of course, it shot up a little bit, but Darren Boyd, who is now at Charleston after being a two-time Atlantic Sun Player of the Year at Lipscomb, he's already
yeah,
scored almost 1,600 points, career points. Let me tell you something. I've played at that level, and scoring points at that level and scoring that many points is very, very difficult to do. He's already got six, and he's not even using his COVID year, by the way. There's no more
Right.
COVID year for those of you who are asking out there. There are some that are still taking some waivers and still have it. But for those who came into college basketball, we're kind of starting to transition out of that. So we're starting to see these guys who have been there for what feels like since the Reagan administration, that
Right.
they've been in this conference, right? You know,
Yeah.
but I think that Darren Boyd from Charleston, he's going to, after averaging almost 20 and a half a game at Lipscomb, I think he's going to be an NBA player. I think he's going to be very good. But I also take a look at Timberlake, and don't forget we talked about the Big West and UC Irvine. Justin Hoon is very, very good. He is very good, and he's going to be excellent. He can shoot, he can pass. He's kind of like the definition of the triple threat. So those are three guys that immediately come to mind. And also, don't sleep. I know I mentioned it before. St. Joe's. As a LaSalle fan, as a UCF alum and a LaSalle basketball fan, it pains me to say this, but Eric Reynolds from St. Joe's in the Atlantic 10 is the real deal. He's going to be really good. He's another player to keep an eye on. I think he's going to be the Atlantic 10 Conference Player of the Year. I think everybody's going to have their mind on VCU, have their mind on Dayton, and Eric Reynolds is going to do what he does and just drop 25 a game and absolutely light it up. And I think St. Joe's and the Hawks go dancing this year out of the Atlantic 10.
Is that right? I guess one team I wanted you to talk a little bit about, you've got them rated super high, and that's High Point. Tell us a little bit about High Point this year.
They are so good, Tony. And I'm just kind of flipping through my own power rankings here. They're gonna. I mean, they have a kid named Kamani Hamilton who is right up there with that mid-major player of the year we were just talking about.
Hmm.
High Point is in that conference with Longwood, who has been very good as of late.
Yep.
UNC Asheville, who we were on a lot last year. UNC Asheville,
Yep.
they disappointed me a
Yep.
little bit last year with Drew Pember. I thought they'd actually do a little bit more. But High Point's going to be very good. They're absolutely loaded. They hit the transfer portal better than any mid-major team I have seen in 10 years. And this is talking about the year of the transfer portal, right? I mean, I can't even. This is what we do for a living, and I can't even keep up with the transfer portal. It's almost hard to keep up with it. Um, but he has done such an amazing job there, man. It is now. I think it is now his third year out. Yeah, it's his third year there. He's finally got his roster in place. They're going to beat teams like USC Upstate, Radford, Presbyterian. They might win by 30. It's going to be a lot of.
Yeah.
I would not be. I would not be afraid to lay that large number with High Point
Right.
in conference play, especially at home, because they're going to pack
Yeah.
that venue at High Point.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be afraid to lay the large number this year. I wouldn't be afraid to lay the large number in totals too. We're seeing a lot of totals last year, towards the end of last year, that just flew over the posted total.
Right.
I think we're going to see that in the
Right.
Big South. We're going to see a lot of scoring.
I noticed here too. We had a lot of plays last year out of the MAC conference, and
Mhm.
is Toledo the team to beat there this year in the MAC? I mean, are they? I see a lot of people high on Toledo this year. I know they're in your top 20, 2022 here on your
I have a
rankings
22.
here. Yeah. So
Yep.
I'm wondering if Ohio, I think, is going to have a pretty decent team. But boy, there surely is a lot of noise out there for Toledo this year.
And rightfully so. I think Toledo is going to be good, but you just mentioned it. I do have the Bobcats of Ohio ranked higher than them. The
Yeah.
one thing about the MAC is you never, even today, I'll give you. We're talking about giving out free little nuggets here. Take Toledo plus 7.5. I cannot believe this number has soared to 7.5. No major. They're playing Troy on a neutral court. Troy's going to be very good out of the Sun Belt, but I will take Toledo for a free play here. Just small little quarter of a unit. Toledo
Right.
tonight at 7 o'clock. They're playing Troy. I'll take the plus 7.5 with them. But in terms of the MAC, that tournament's in Atlantic City. It's in my hometown. I know a lot about it. The media day was in my hometown. Um, I have Ohio 1, Toledo 2, Kent State 3. You know me. I
Kent
love
State.
head coach Rob. Yeah, I love Rob Senderoff and
Yeah,
Kent
you're
State
big
and
on
what he's
that
done.
coach.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love him. I love him. I think he's the most underrated coach in America. I really do. And that's coming from a guy, and I know a lot of these guys too, but I think he's the best head coach in the mid majors. Every year, he just all he does is hang out at Kent State and win 25 games a year and get into the NCAA tournament every other year. And but
Yeah.
that conference, Tony's loaded with good coaches. Remember Travis Steele, who was at Ohio State and Xavier, he's now in Miami, Ohio.
Yep.
Chris Mack, we talked about. You know, he's now at Charleston, so
Yep.
that Louisville, that
Yep.
Xavier connection. So a lot of good coaches, a lot of talent, and moving on to the other one we didn't talk about is the American East, and
Right.
we talked about Brian a little bit, but how about Vermont every year and what they do? It is
Yeah.
unbelievable, man. Every year Vermont just I have them winning once again, winning the American East. That's going to be another good one. But you just said it yourself. High Point is for me. Going back to that Big South, High Point, UC Irvine. They're going to be there's some really really good teams out there, and I think this is the year where if you look at it, if you look at the futures market in terms of winning, basically getting to the Final Four, right? Obviously, UConn's probably going to be one, Duke's going to be two, North Carolina. But this is a year really where you kind of look back at 3 years ago and think of Florida Atlantic and what they did. This
Yeah.
this is a year where I think you could see a High Point, you could see a Vermont if they can. Once you get into that first four that's in Dayton, Tony, when they expanded now.
Yeah.
you know, the thing about the first four is once you get in the first four, you just play basketball. These kids, these freshmen and sophomores nowadays, they're used to playing 5 or 6 AAU tournaments a day, games a day. You think they're going to be scared to play 2 games back to back? They're just happy to be there. It's one of those things where they're so
Yeah.
young. They're just, once they get in, I'm telling you, this is going to
Yeah.
be a year where I think you could see a UMBC, what they did, a Florida Atlantic, what they did. I think you could see a McNeese State, a UC Irvine, a College of Charleston, a Bryant of Vermont. I think this is a year we could see some real bracket busters come March.
Yeah, they have legitimate rights to go crash the Final Four. I mean, there's so much parity now in college basketball. And that's one thing that Tim Fynes, ladies and gentlemen, is my small conference basketball staff capper. Also does the WNBA with me as well. Not our best year in the WNBA this year, but we'll straighten that out. We'll make up for a lot of that in college basketball. But one thing we do is we take a very low volume approach, especially early. We pick and choose our spots. The one thing about all these smidge majors and small conference teams is they don't get the lion's share of the action. So we find us some really juicy lines that don't move a lot. Like we had Charleston move on us today, but
Mm.
there are very few to bet out there, and there's a lot of people wanting action down right out of the gate. But as the season rolls along during the week, there's not a lot of people looking to bet High Point. They're looking to bet the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the ACC or even the SEC. Whoever Gonzaga's playing, they want to pound Gonzaga. That sort of thing. So we're cherry picking out of these smaller conferences and finding serious value on the line. How many media days did you go to this year for these small conferences?
13.
There you go. I don't know a handicapping company out there. Tony George Sports is a company that operates under Doc Sports umbrella. I don't think anybody has a staff capper going to 13 media days. I mean, and
And
knowing
the,
these conferences inside and out, specialization being the key to success. And I only look at I look at the mid majors, but I concentrate a lot on the Big 12 and the Big 10. And the Mountain West is another conference that, I bring a
yeah,
lot of picks out of as well.
you do. Yeah, yeah.
But I
That's
think
one of your
that's a
that's your that's
recipe
your
for
bailiwick.
yeah. And I think that is that's something that a lot of guys, in this business, and especially Tim nowadays with the more and more states legalizing sports betting. Hopefully, Missouri on Amendment 2 tomorrow. Vote yes on Amendment 2 in Missouri for crying out loud. But,
For once,
because
for
I'm
once,
here in
can we
Kansas,
get Missouri on it?
yeah, yeah, I'm here in Kansas City. I spend half the year here and half the year in Vegas. I like Vegas better because of the betting environment. I use 5 different apps and get the best
Outlets.
line and shop my lines, and it's instantaneous. Here, I got to drive about 6 miles in order to bet on and I got basically 2 options. Of
Sure.
course, I have some guys taking care of me in
Yeah,
Vegas too. Don't get me wrong. You know,
yeah.
but the one thing that we do is a lot of specialization in these areas, and they're not the sexy picks. Well, you
No, they're
guys
not.
want to
No.
bet Duke, North Carolina on a Thursday night. It's the biggest game in town. Why? Why? Those
It's
are
just
some of
it's
the
also the
sharpest lines.
sharpest lines.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they're the sharpest lines. We're finding value in these smaller conferences, and we held our even when it gets to March Madness, it's not like I don't know what's going on and all the the Power Five stuff, and but there's a lot of white noise and a lot of crap that you get caught up into with that stuff, and we don't have we just filter that out and do our thing, and like I said, it's not the sexiest picks in the world, but green is green. A 4 unit play is a 4 unit play, no matter who the hell you're betting. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're and we cherry picked the piss out of these, and as we were talking about some of these, you were talking about these. Who would you think at least out of the season, out of me a couple of teams out of these smaller conferences that maybe do have the legitimate right to crash, let's say, the Sweet 16 and make some noise and really raise some eyebrows?
Right from the jump, I, even though I have Grand Canyon ranked very, very high, I have McNeese State ranked very, very high. The one thing that you cannot take away from is the know-how of the tournament and the conference we just talked about a couple minutes ago, which is the MAC. Um, Teams like Toledo, teams like Ohio, teams like Kent State. Rob. I always talk about Rob Senderoff at Kent State. He's been there for 23 years. Todd Kowalski has been there at Toledo now for coming up on 17 years.
Yeah,
And Todd Bowles had been in Ohio now he's coming up on his 10th year. This is
yeah.
somebody who was at North Dakota State before, who took the Bison to an NCAA tournament appearance.
Yes, he
He
did.
was, he took them back then. Rob Senderoff has taken the Golden Flash of Kent State to 6 NCAA tournament appearances.
Yeah,
So
he's a good ball
for
coach.
me, yes, he is absolutely. And
Yeah,
this is why I said, Tony, today, just what I said about Charleston. Think of Chris Mack. He took Louisville to an Elite Eight. He took 2 years off from coaching, but he's back now at Charleston. So, even though I like Grand Canyon, to answer your question, Grand Canyon, McNeese, and High Point are going to be my 1, 2, 3, and probably shuffle that a little bit throughout the year, right? McNeese, High Point, Grand Canyon, McNeese, High Point. But the one thing I can tell you is don't go against the know-how of the MAC. Don't go against the know-how of Coach Rob Senderoff. Don't go against the know-how of Coach Travis Steele. Don't go against the know-how of Coach Christopher Mack. It's just like when Rick Pitino was at Iona the past 4 years. What did Iona do? Well, Iona went to the tournament 4 years in a row. So I think they're going to struggle a lot this year. But when it comes to the tournament, I look at that MAC conference, and they are so battle tested. It's very much like the Atlantic 10. There's no night off. Just to give you an example, Tony, and I know you know this, but for everybody listening out there, a night off this year in the Atlantic 10, an off night for a team like VCU or Dayton is at going on the road to Richmond. That's an off night in the Mullen Center. UMass in the Mullen Center. That's an off
right.
night. That's a hell of a ringer to go through on a quote unquote easy night, right? Go play at LaSalle at 20th and Albany on a Saturday in a packed house in North Philly. That's an off day in the Atlantic 10. An off
Yeah,
day in the Big South, you're playing Presbyterian at noon on a Sunday. That's an off day, okay? No offense to the Blue Hose of Presbyterian, but an off day in the Atlantic 10, you're going at Davidson. You're going at the Bonnies. And do you think it's fun going to Olean, New York, and playing at the Bonaventures? I have the Bonnies power ranked 9th this year. And again, that's going to be an off day for teams like Dayton and VCU. So
right.
when it comes to the tournament, I'll go with any team at the Atlantic 10, those top 3 that I mentioned, and any 3 out of the MAC that I mentioned in the Toledos, the Ohios, and the Kent State of the worlds. They're going to be really good, especially the Bobcats. Watch out for the Bobcats of Ohio. They're going to be really excellent this year, Tony.
Yeah, and just quickly, and then we're going to tell you how you can get updates with Tim and I at least twice a month. We're going to be doing my StreamYard podcast, The Vegas Beat, which you can find on Twitter at TGeorgeSports, or Facebook. Everybody's got Facebook. I mean, you got to check up and see what the Joneses are doing. So you got to have Facebook just to, see everybody's perfect world that isn't so perfect after all, you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
I always love Facebook. We're in love. We're on vacation. We're doing this. Life is grand. 2 weeks later, we're getting divorced. He's an a hole. I
Yeah.
love. You gotta love Facebook, man. They
Gotta
live
love
their
it.
life. I don't live my life on Facebook. I can tell you that. But I like reading about people who do. But just type in Tony
Me and you
George
both, Tony.
Sports. Yeah, just type in Tony George Sports over there, and you'll be able to see those. Those are live, and you can comment on the StreamYard platform. And of course, you can also watch them. They're archived there after they're done. And we'll be doing those. We'll be doing some reviews like on a Thursday, probably. Tim and I are yet to work it out. Where we'll take a look ahead at some of the weekend action and maybe recap some of the stuff that's going on. And we'll give you updates on the daily free play videos right here on Doc's YouTube channel about when those are on. So we can communicate a little bit more with people this year. Tim and I he can kind of get your takes, mid-season takes, and this, that, and midweek takes and stuff like that. But before I let you go, I want to talk about the Ivy League, and is it Princeton and everybody else again? I know Yale's got kind of a halfway decent team coming back. But Princeton again, I hear that. Yeah, I guess so. You got them rated sixth in your mid-major power poll.
Another thing, if you told me, like I told you about North Alabama, and if you told me, I would have told you, Tony, 4 years ago to check me into the Betty Ford Clinic if I told you that North Alabama would win the Atlantic Sun. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I just like them, man. I have Princeton out of the Ivy League. They are not your typical Ivy League team. They are
No.
big, they are strong, they are athletic, they score the ball, they defend. Head coach Mitch Henderson at Princeton has the Tigers absolutely rolling this year. They're going to be very, very dangerous. So to me, Tony, yes, it is Princeton and everybody else, but it's Princeton, a little bit of a drop off, Yale, Harvard, Cornell, Penn, then everybody else. But I think look for Princeton to make the Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah. I've also heard a lot. I've heard a lot of chatter about Toledo, warranted. I mean, Ohio's probably a little better than them, but I've also heard a lot of chatter about Princeton. But Yale is going to be. That'll be a good ball game when they play. But I think Princeton will be blown. We're going to be looking at a lot of those spreads with Princeton. And especially I
And
haven't seen their non-conference schedule, but they usually play a big boy or two and scare the piss out of them. So we'll see what they're doing there in the non-conference schedule before the conference schedule starts, and we'll be doing more of these small conference plays, even in tournaments where they're playing big brother, so to speak. Then we will be doing Power Fives like the Maui Classic, where Kansas and Michigan State and Kentucky and all these big schools matching up where they really don't give a rat's ass out of the gate. They're just trying to get their team ready. So those games
like
really don't
Tom
count.
Izzo at Michigan State.
Yeah, that doesn't count against them by playing a Goliath right out of the gate, whether they win or they lose it. But we'll be concentrating a lot more about finding value with good small conference teams against Power 5 teams, and they're getting a huge number. And Tim knows Tim knows the players and the man-to-man mismatches that we can find in the talent level. It's not like Tim doesn't. If Tim wants to know about a Power 5 team he hasn't researched, he just reaches out to me. Hey, what do you know about these guys? What do you know about those guys? And I've got my notes, and we compare, and we can find some mismatches. We can find some opportunities against the spread. And that's what we're looking to do this year and really keep it again. I know there's a lot of college basketball games on the board, and I was getting to this point earlier, and a lot more states legalizing betting. And you got a lot of these guys coming out of the woodwork now. They're world champion handicappers out of nowhere, and they're 25 years old, and they're just what they're doing is they're throwing darts up against the board to see if it
Yeah.
sticks because there's so many games. And even
Yep.
good handicappers sometimes can't see the forest because of all the trees, because there's just so much to digest, so much to look at, where Tim has it narrowed down to these smaller conferences, and especially, there's a bunch of them, but he does specialize in 3 or 4 of them where we really cherry pick a lot of games out of that we
Yep.
know. And on the other side of the coin, I kind of do the same thing in the Power Fives. I'll look at all of them. I'm mainly Mountain West, Big Ten. I stick my nose in a little bit of the Big 12, and then of
In the Mo
course
Valley.
the Mo Valley has been my bread and butter. It's
Yep.
getting that conference. They had a lot of teams leave, just destroyed it, and so it's nurturing itself back again. Last year we had a lot of teams playing that hadn't played in there before, so we didn't have a lot of that history to go on. That we
Yep.
know that when you play Bradley in the barn, it's always going to be a knockdown drag out. But when sometimes they have their number at Bradley, those sort of long-standing traditions and kind of the way
Sure.
things go got mixed up with all these conference realignments. So it's taken a little time to kind of get your feet and some numbers to work off of. But Tim, I'll tell you what, buddy, I appreciate you coming on. Hoping
You
that we
got it,
got
Tony.
us a tight ball game right now with Charleston as we're doing the show.
Oh, you,
I see.
buddy, you I hear you.
Yeah,
I keep looking to my
well,
right.
yeah. Trust me.
I,
Welcome back to college basketball, huh?
yeah. Welcome back,
It just
everybody. Welcome back. We got March
Yeah,
Madness already on day one here.
we got a 3-point lead with 11 minutes going, so we're right there. And of course, anything can happen early on, folks. But he is Tim Fynes, and you will find his write-up some of the best in the business. I always ask him to quit writing so much, because he does such detailed analysis. But you're going to tell when his plays are in there and my plays are combined, because my write-ups are a little shorter. Plus, you're
Yeah.
tired after reading his. But we'll give you
Yeah,
your
sure.
bang for your buck over there at DocSports.com. And I'll be announcing this twice monthly podcast we're going to do with Tim over on the StreamYard. And of course, we'll have him drop in from time to time on the Doc Sports YouTube channel as well. Tim, thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Hey, let's get him this year, buddy.
You got it, Tony. Hey, last thing, man. I just want to say congratulations to my good friend, Jerry McNamara. You know him as the player at Syracuse. I know him as my good friend. He is now the head coach at Siena. Really, really wish you nothing but the best, Jerry. It's going to be a heck of a year for Siena. Watch out for the Saints of Siena. It's one last thing I wanted to add there. Thank you for having me on, Tony. It's going to be a fun year, and we got one already with Charleston and Southern Illinois going on here. So we'll get buckled up and we'll strap in there. And like Tony said, specialization is key. I'm not trying to hit you with the dagger. I want to hit you hit the books with 1,000 different paper cuts, and that's what we'll try to do throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, exactly. And don't be taking Siena just because McNamara is your buddy.
I'm not.
Good.
I'm not. Well,
Head,
I
not
hear
your
you.
heart.
I know. Hey, it's like, hey, you
Hey,
ever see me on
man,
UCF?
no. Let me tell you,
Yeah,
McNamara,
no.
when he was at Cuse, that cat could ball.
Oh my goodness gracious! Could he shoot the basketball, Tony? Right?
He could
Could
knock
he
down some
shoot the
shots.
freak?
I won
Woo!
some money on that, brother. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Big
yeah,
time.
that's my guy, man. Me
Big
too.
time.
I was too busy getting my ass whooped by him. Okay, so at the
Yeah, there
time
you
I was
go.
still I was on the other side of the coin there. Now I'm just happy he's coaching. I can do my thing. He can do his thing. But very proud of him, and he's going to be an absolute excellent head coach. He's going to be a Power 5 head coach within about 2 or 3 years, and he's going to take a team to the NCAA tournament very soon.
Very good. Folks, you get a bang for your buck at Doc Sports, myself and Tim Fynes. This college basketball season, get over there and get yourself a package. Put that free $60 You can see the link above there. Put that in your browser and take $60 off. Hell, give us a try for a month. For a month package, get $60 off. Get over to Docs and check out all the action information we have for college basketball. There's a lot of content over at the website right now with college hoops tipping off. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate having me.